What's the secret to unlocking your voice in American English? It's... If you're watching these lessons in order, you were expecting something about posture and sounds. But you need to know the truth about one little thing first. See, I know why you think you need to change your voice to sound better in English. I know why you can't change it. The Batman. What's that? Not the Batman? Well, anyway, you'll see. Oh, and yes, I am relevant to the video. Stay tuned. You might have heard other teachers talk about things like voice placement, resonance, speaking from the chest or speaking from the throat. But how do you place your voice? Should you try to sound like a different person? How do you know you did it correctly? And the most important question of all, why the is the Joker in this video? The answer to these questions and more is in mouth posture, meaning the default vocal tract settings that a language or dialect uses. In fact, getting the right posture is the secret key to both sounding like a native and naturally unlocking your English voice in the process. Today, we're focused on the part of the posture that most affects voice placement, in addition to a couple details that go with it. To help us do that, this lesson contains special exercises, including how to fix common mistakes, a voice placement checklist, and a special step-by-step bonus hack that you can use to help get any posture or voice that you want. But first, what does voice placement actually mean? Take 2 fingers. Place one at the top of your throat and one at the bottom of your throat. Now make either the eh sound or the sound in your language like you normally would. For example, go ahead and do this a few times. Now you should feel vibration through the entire throat, but either the top or the bottom should vibrate a bit more strongly. Some languages place the voice lower, some higher, and some very high. Voice placement is the location where you feel this vibration most strongly and where it sounds and feels like your voice is coming from. Now don't confuse this with resonance, which we will come back to later. But ask yourself, where do I feel the most vibration? Lower in the throat? Higher in the throat? Maybe up in the nose? Whatever your answer is, that is your native voice placement. This is Kaz, the creator of an approach to American pronunciation called Eigo Nodo, which means English throat in Japanese, and overall, he sounds fantastic.
You really have to tighten your throat to really produce like authentic Japanese. That's why I think many Japanese people struggle, especially adults, to do this something simple that you guys take it for granted almost in the West.
Kaz is absolutely correct, and his results speak for themselves. As we saw on the maps earlier, the American voice placement is low. But if your goal is to sound as natural and native as possible, it is not enough to just change your voice placement. You also have to change the other settings of your mouth posture to match the language. To do that fully, you'll have to check out the other lessons in this course in addition to this lesson. For now, let's see if you can get closer to my voice as well as Kaz's English voice by taking a look at how posture affects voice placement. First, watch me. Using the eh as in bed sound, I'm going to start my voice higher and then shift it lower, but I'm going to keep that sound the entire time. Now you try. First, take a big breath, but make sure that your jaw isn't super open. Now let your throat relax and open, especially the top part. Your native posture already feels relaxed to you, so you have to relax even more. Go ahead and put your fingers on the top and bottom of your throat again and see if you feel more vibration from the bottom. There are a few things which can create the wrong result, which we'll come back to in a second. Your voice is your voice. The only required change to the voice itself is a slightly lower pitch and a bit more openness, which is just the result of your shifted posture, mostly in the throat. Now, I do know there are those of you who want to change some or all of your voice, in which case the bonus hack at the end will help you do that. But let's first make sure you're not making any of these mistakes. As for pitch, first go ahead and take a second to try to raise your pitch just using your native normal posture. My voice is still coming from down here, or at least the bottom half of the throat. Go ahead and try to lower your pitch using your native posture. Now when I lower my pitch, although I can go into the chest, it's most likely just going to stay right here because I'm not trying to speak from the chest and project out. In both cases, my voice stays centered around here, and the pitch will almost sort of extend out from that center without moving the center itself, at least not very much. Let's quickly see a pitch change versus placement change. Look at this balloon. It's currently filled with air. Now, if I were to squeeze the sides, that air would want to be pushed up and out towards the top. Your stomach is the balloon. The air is your breath. Not having enough breath can make it difficult to release all the tension in the throat, keeping your voice higher. In a normal conversation, before you say anything in American English, you need to make sure that you have enough air first. So when you don't have enough air, you have to inflate the balloon. Place your hand on your stomach and take a big breath. Your stomach must come outward a bit when you do this. Now, it is possible to do this too much, but you should be able to hear and feel a little breath come in through the mouth or through the nose if your mouth is closed. This is actually a communication signal in English that tells other people you're about to speak. Let's try again. Breathe in, let it go. Breathe in, let it go. And the inhale is actually just the first step. You remember when I mentioned squeezing the sides of the balloon? When you exhale, you want to slightly tighten the stomach muscles and let that gently help push the air up as you speak. First, we'll use breath only. Now with and lastly, a sentence. I wanna go to the beach. I wanna go to the beach. Instead of holding the tension up at the top of the throat, Americans shift that tension to the stomach, which is one thing that allows our posture and especially voice placement to sink downward. You have to learn to feel what muscles are already engaged in your native posture so that you can learn how to relax them. How things feel to me is that under your skin here, you actually have two layers of the throat. There's the outer layer and the inner layer. Now, although this might be weird, we can use this as an example. This would be the outer throat under the skin. This would be the inner throat. If you just relax the outer throat, your voice will not be able to fall downward and you won't get the right result. First, you want to go to a super, super tight version that's maybe tighter than you're used to. And you try to say hoka, but you keep it tighter. So hoka, ka, ah, ah. Now you try. Now if you loosen up to how you usually hold the top of your throat, that's one step in the direction that we want. Hoka, hoka. Try this one now. Then you can use that as, okay, I know what this feels like to be tighter. This is what it feels like to be a little looser, which is where you're probably normally at. Then if you can loosen it even further, hoka, hoka. It's a three-step process that can help you get used to opening this up. The last reason you might not get the right result is resonance. What the heck is resonance anyway? To resonate means, well, basically to vibrate. A more language-specific definition would be to amplify vocal sound by the sympathetic vibration of air in certain cavities and bony structures. Bruh. Let's do an experiment. Listen to these two sounds. E, oo. In your native language, hold these two sounds exactly like that, one at a time. Now do the E again, but see if you can notice vibration in the front of the mouth where that E sound is. Repeat this with the oo sound, seeing if you can maybe feel a bit more vibration back here, and also around the lips, since the lips will be more rounded. What you're feeling there is what I call sound resonance or local resonance. Wherever a sound is placed, you will likely feel a little extra vibration around that sound in that part of the mouth. But this isn't quite what we mean when we usually talk about resonance. Let's try another experiment. In your language, say the sentence, "I want to go to the beach." Now do this again a few times, but see if there's an area of your mouth where you notice a more or less constant vibration that's a bit stronger than any of the particular sound locations. That is your global resonance in the mouth, or as we usually refer to it, just resonance. Now try this. Close your eyes and say a few sentences in your native language. As you speak, notice where you feel your voice vibrating compared to where you feel the global resonance in the mouth. The voice is mostly in the throat, but the resonance or global resonance is the vibration we feel in the mouth as the sound passes through it. As we know, if the tongue is higher and farther forward and the throat is tighter, there's less space in the mouth and the resonance placement tends to get squeezed forward. In American English, we have the opposite posture settings, so we tend to feel the strongest, most consistent vibration in the back half of the mouth. Here's an easy reference checklist you can use. The first step is identify pieces. This includes building awareness of what you need to do and how to physically do it.
I thought my jokes were bad.
He speaks a bit more from the chest, which allows the voice to project out over the vocal fry for clarity.
I know why you're afraid to go out at night.
Me? I was right here.
Yeah, right now.
You darn tootin'.
Turns out that the Joker, as the Joker box pointed out in his tutorial video, uses a Midwestern or that sort of toned down Minnesota type of accent. If we do a stereotypical Minnesota type of accent, I'm from Minnesota, eh? To me, it feels like there's a slightly higher placement, not all the way up here, but slightly higher. The tongue feels like it's a little higher and farther forward. Everything gets squeezed a little bit. I use that as an anchor before saying the Joker lines to try to reset. For the American English posture settings, we saw all these pieces in the previous lesson. After you've identified the pieces, you want to move on to the next step, which is intensive practice. Now, there are two types of intensive practice. One is shadowing, which is the thing that you should focus on the most, especially when you first start. But there's also extra free play, such as when you're doing the dishes or you're taking a shower, and you don't need to sit down, have a reference, and focus as much, but you're still playing with things, trying to reinforce things. This also provides an important bridge between needing the reference to perform the skill, which is a common trap, to being able to actually do things yourself without the reference. Now, we're not going to go into a whole lot of specific detail here because I am going to be making a full lesson on how to shadow properly. If you want to make sure you don't miss that when it gets posted, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification. Intensive practice is limited in scope with high repetitions and micro adjustments. In other words, it builds depth of understanding and skill. It also breaks things into layers, creates and uses anchors, and ideally has a tight feedback loop. I'm going to cover what anchors mean and how you can use them in depth in that shadowing lesson. But for now, an anchor is one or more points that you know you can do and that you can come back to or that you can reference when trying to build other things on top of it. We actually already did this in the phase 1 lesson of this course, where we were using the sound to try to get all the details of the posture. Some examples of anchors I used for the Joker voice, trying to just get the vocal fry, the breath, all that stuff with the sound, with the unmerged as in hot, which is traditionally at least part of that Midwestern accent, and the phrase, I know why. The second type of practice is extensive practice. This also has a shadowing version and an extra free play version, but extensive practice comes after building enough of the basics with intensive practice, is broader in scope. For example, after I felt more consistent with the basics of the Joker voice, I expanded out from the few phrases I was using and found a video with many different Joker lines and shadowed over each scene a few times. Uses anchors to reset as needed while you practice, zooms in to intensive practice and back out as needed for difficult things, can be either continuous or repetitive. Again, shadowing and trying to match it perfectly. And extensive practice naturally has a looser feedback loop, but feedback is still important. Now, don't forget about voice placement and resonance when you're applying the posture to the sounds, which you can learn about by clicking this video. Or if you're new to mouth posture, see the playlist here. No, don't.